All right, welcome to the show, y'all. Hope everybody out there is having a great day. In just a second, we are going to talk about Trump's shadow president. And no, it is not Stephen Miller. It's somebody who's actually even more hidden than him. So we'll dive into that and all the damage that he's doing. We'll also talk about a MAGA civil war that has erupted. You have Ben Shapiro berating Alex Jones and Marjorie Taylor Greene. It also appears like he's not too happy with his own, I guess you could say, co-hosts or people who work on the Daily Wire, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles. They're sort of flirting with Fuentesism. So we'll talk about that. Later on, we have Fuentes is back to glazing Trump after spending months acting like, you know, he was going to criticize him all the time. We have Bill Maher and Stephen A. Smith sucking rancid ass together. That's horrible. And then Joe Rogan's Democrat derangement syndrome is completely and utterly out of control. And there's this amazing video of this black woman scolding the ICE Gestapo criminals to their face. And that is, I want that video to go viral because, man, oh man, is that special. This woman has some fucking stones, y'all. Holy shit. She puts them in their place. All right, so you guys know the drill. Everybody, please do me a big favor and subscribe to the channel. You could also support the show on Patreon if you're so inclined, or tip with that thanks button on YouTube. You could also support Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. And go subscribe, of course, to the Corn's World YouTube channel where we do live Kyle and Corn episodes every Monday at 8:30. All right, guys, let's dive into it. So ProPublica did a bunch of research on this guy by the name of Russ Vought. Russ Vought is the current head of OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, and that position is incredibly powerful. Now, it just so happens that Russ Vought is also a complete and utter psychopath. So let's watch their breakdown. This is Trump's shadow president, Russ Vought.
This is the most important person in the Trump administration that you've probably never heard of.
I got to mute it because I don't want to get copyright on that. It's the Reaper. Like, Russ Vought is the Reaper. Trump posted that.
Russell Vought, director of the office.
I tell people when Russ Vought speaks, it's like a papal bull. You should pay attention.
He's more than just Donald Trump's budget guru.
He has two very clear goals: to make the presidency as powerful as it's ever been, and to dismantle as much of the federal bureaucracy as he can.
People have referred to him as the shadow president. I'm Andy Kroll. I'm an investigative reporter for ProPublica. I've been covering politics and government in Washington for almost 16 years. I had heard the name Russ Vought, but he was always just slightly outside the field of vision. And then I got my hands on this video.
We want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected. When they wake up in the morning, we want them to not want to go to work.
Holy shit. There are, over 1 million government workers like this. He wants them to be traumatic and not want to show up to work. He's part of the Curtis Yarvin school of thought. Rage, retire all government employees. He wants the dark enlightenment is what he wants. This is going to get worse. Wait for it.
To traumatize federal workers.
You want to put them in trauma.
That just planted this seed in my mind that I had to try to figure out who this person is.
He declined my request for an interview, so I set out to talk to everyone I possibly could, watch every video, listen to every podcast. I obtained hours of briefings to his supporters that had never been published before.
America has experienced nothing short of a quiet revolution.
We know the CRT and the transgender sewage that's being pumped into our schools and institutions.
A border invasion furthering, quite frankly, a reverse colonization.
We're actually trying to save the country.
Those recordings really helped me understand his evolution from this numbers wonk to a full-fledged leader of the MAGA movement.
One of the key authors of Project 2025, Russell Vought, told the reporters that Trump would deploy the military to silence the unrest.
I think you have to rehabilitate Christian nationalism. You have the largest deportation in history.
He said you have to rehabilitate Christian nationalism, and we want the largest deportation in history.
Funding for Planned Parenthood. I want to be the person who crushes the deep state.
Yeah, I called for trauma within the bureaucracies. The bureaucracies hate the American people.
He really has a vision to change the direction of American history.
We must do our duty for the course of this country, quite frankly, for the course of Western civilization, and for the course of history.
Vought has always seen himself as a blue-collar political outsider, even though he's spent basically his entire adult life here in Washington. The first job that seems to have left a real mark on him, and it did leave a serious imprint, was when he got a job working in the mailroom of a senator from Texas named Phil Gramm.
This is a collage of political giveaways. I am not going to spend more money we don't have on programs we can't afford.
Phil Gramm was the ultimate budget hawk. He was sort of half-jokingly referred to as the most hated man in Washington.
Our problem really comes down to the political power of the public employee labor union.
He was willing to make enemies not just of Democrats, but of Republicans as well. And that really gives you an insight into Russ Vought. When he was inside the legislative branch, he finds himself battling far more with fellow Republicans who, in his view, are not living up to the principles of what it means to be a conservative. He grows so disillusioned that he leaves.
After 12 years on Capitol Hill, I was often frustrated by why more members of Congress simply didn't do the right thing. Most of them spend too much time listening to the loud vocal groups in their district clamoring for more government.
He goes to this new upstart group called Heritage Action, the quote-unquote new fangs of an old beast, which is the Heritage Foundation, the sort of long-standing conservative think tank. And he becomes basically the chief antagonist of his own party.
Heritage Action, let's give him a warm welcome, Russ Vought.
We believe that every member of Congress needs congressional accountability, whether they're the best or the worst member of Congress.
You should not fund and pay for Obamacare.
It's hurting the American economy.
Fund government, but not Obamacare.
At midnight last night, for the first time in 17 years, Republicans in Congress chose to shut down the federal government.
He is very much a creature of the swamp, someone who knows the federal budget inside and out. He has really passionate feelings about the House Rules Committee, yet he comes around to this notion that we need to stir people at the grassroots and make that change flow up.
Never wanted to leave the fight, and really until Donald Trump becomes elected, and then you have an opportunity for paradigm-shifting work.
The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action.
There was a scramble to try to get people to go into these key jobs, and getting people to go to the Office of Management and Budget is a crucial role. A lot of what they're doing right now at such a rapid clip, they tried to do during Trump's first administration. Every dollar that Congress approved to fund the government, OMB controls the flow of that money. If you were to pick the one place in the federal government to go where you could put a kink in the hose and bring everything to a stop, OMB is basically the only place where you could do that.
And by the way, if you stop and think about it, a lot of the Doge stuff had to do with OMB. It's that Doge mindset of like, let's just start cutting absolutely everything in sight, and the courts are going to try to stop us, but fuck the courts. We'll ignore them however we can, which is how you get a situation where Trump and MAGA and Elon Musk and Russ Vought, they cut pediatric cancer research and the National Weather Service and Meals on Wheels and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the nuclear safety officials and FEMA, and they fired 83,000 veterans, and they cut the Department of Education, and they closed half the Social Security offices, and they fired 250,000 public workers, and they cut the food safety inspectors and air traffic controllers and scientific research and medical research and USAID. They did all of that shit, and a lot of it is because they have these fucking psychotic anarcho-capitalist pirates who are now staffed at the Treasury, at Office of Management and Budget, and Russ Vought is the head of the snake.
Congress has the power of the purse, and there is even a law that says the president cannot, quote-unquote, impound, to use the legal jargon term, cannot freeze lawfully approved money just because the White House disagrees with it. But that's what they did in this case with Ukraine.
Democrats tonight are seizing on newly unredacted documents about what's at the heart of the president's impeachment, that freeze on military aid to Ukraine.
In 2019, the message comes down from the White House to the Office of Management and Budget that we want to freeze more than $200 million of money that was going to go to Ukraine in the form of security assistance.
The bureaucracy was literally just ignoring it. And quite frankly, his political appointees, like John Bolton, were ignoring him as well.
In Vought's eyes, this was a deep state insubordination, a rebellion by employees who weren't on board with the president.
And we cut the money off, and it was like all hell broke loose.
Yeah, because that was illegal. That's why all hell broke loose. What you did was illegal, Russ.
And the bureaucracy.
We got impeached, yeah.
And so...
yeah. Resolution impeaching Donald John Trump.
Impeaching Donald John Trump, President of the United States, for high crimes and misdemeanors.
Vought has repeatedly said that they didn't break the law, even though this government watchdog said that they did. But really, he sees this as a kind of first test moment in a strategy that he believes actually the president should use, and should use far more often and aggressively than even in the case of the Ukraine money. It's July of 2020, and Vought is sworn in as the director.
We had 6 months to go, and the president said, Russ, we need another term. We're just figuring this out.
In the final weeks of the administration, Trump is constantly talking about how the election is fraudulent. This, of course, culminates in January 6th. There is an exodus of senior people in the Trump administration. Russ Vought is not a part of that exodus. He stands by Trump, And on one of the last days, Vogt tells him that he plans to launch this new political operation with the mission to essentially keep the MAGA movement alive.
Our next guest has launched a new think tank and advocacy group to advance former President Trump's America First agenda.
Russ Vogt, former Office of Management and Budget Director and the president of the Center for Renewing America. Russ, thank you for joining me.
When Vogt looks out at the state of the country, he sees quite a darkened landscape.
The FBI has been weaponized. Critical race theory is state-sanctioned racism. What they're doing in our schools and pushing gender-affirming care is chemical castration.
In 2022, his organization, Center for Renewing America, hosts this gala at, of course, Mar-a-Lago. President Trump is there, giving Vogt's operation his imprimatur in media appearances, in briefing calls with his supporters. Vogt is very vocal in a way that he just wasn't at any point earlier in his career about what he sees as being wrong with America.
So we believe that we have become too secular, not just overall in the country, but on the right. Our elites have lost the consensus that we're a Judeo-Christian nation.
And so this new project is not only about taking on critical race theory or raising awareness among the grassroots about the weaponization of government, but he's also seeding this deeper notion that America is basically losing sight of what it actually was meant to be.
I have no problem if it's properly understood when someone calls me a Christian nationalist. I reject when they're trying to use a dog whistle, when they're trying to say it's a fascist and all that nonsense. But should we lean into this?
Unlike most pejoratives, it describes something that's true. We are Christian who are nationalists. We are people who believe that we have a Christian nation. Right now, churches have all of this talk about love your neighbor, and they don't have any ability to say, no, we do not want that group of refuge coming from that country that is dominated by Sharia law. We don't want.
He takes his vision, his plan, his ideas straight to the grassroots.
Honor all the work that Russell Vogt has been doing. Those Thursday calls I look forward to every week.
He has this weekly briefing call with anyone who is a supporter who wants to tune in.
We have largely failed to turn back the overwhelming tide of government.
These recordings really give you a view into the way he thinks about strategy.
So when you're watching television and the words woke and weaponized come out of a politician's mouth, you can know that that's coming in from this call, that's coming from the strategies that we're putting out and trying to shape the narrative.
He had success getting these ideas into the bloodstream of American politics.
Crooked Joe's DOJ is woke and weaponized.
Woke and weaponized bureaucrats at the Department.
This woke and weaponized government has to be defanged.
Look at how they're all total bots, bro. They're all bots on the right. Like, they get their fucking marching orders and they're just, sir, yes, sir. Whatever you say, sir. There's not independent thought, right? This is just like, shit. I'm in a cult, and I will do whatever the cult masters say. In this case, Trump, Stephen Miller, Russ Vought, these are the people who are the cult leaders.
There's a moment in one of these tapes at this annual confab, and it was actually a speech given by Steve Bannon.
And I realize there's some people that question Trump, but look at that command performance he gave the other night. I mean, it's like Charlemagne. That's like a Viking chieftain standing up there. Russ can tell he's a very imperfect instrument, right? But he's an instrument of the Lord. He's an instrument of the Lord for his vengeance, okay?
We think about Bannon and Vogt as surrogates of Trump. When you hear Bannon describe Trump as an instrument of God, you start to think that maybe it's the other way around, that Trump is an instrument that Vogt uses, that Bannon uses, or in their view, that the Almighty uses toward this longer-term agenda.
The stark reality in America is that we are in the late stages of a complete Marxist takeover of the country. We are here in the year of 2024, a year that very well, and I believe it will, rival 1776 and 1860. And guess what? We have in Donald Trump, a man who is so uniquely positioned to serve this role, a man whose own interests perfectly align with the interests of the country. That is nothing more than a gift of God.
The plans are already underway to ensure that if Donald Trump wins, all of the chaos and dysfunction and lack of preparation that hampered his first administration will not hamper his second. Vogt is absolutely at the center of these efforts.
The majority of my time right now is being spent chairing the transition portion of the Project 2025. We have detailed agency plans. We are writing the actual executive orders. I don't want President Trump having to lose a moment of time having fights in the Oval Office about whether something is legal or doable or moral.
Jesus Christ, what a quote that is. I don't want Trump wasting time in the Oval Office debating if something is legal or doable or moral.
this election will have been for nothing.
The golden age of America begins right now.
Day one, in the most Trumpian fashion, the president sits down at a desk in an arena with a stack of executive orders. And he sets in motion just an absolute blizzard in the executive branch. Vogt comes back into the same role, picking up right where he left off.
The president ran on the notion that the Impoundment Control Act is unconstitutional. I agree with that.
So it is the law of the land. I don't care what the president said when he was running. It is the law of the land.
He and his team played a key role in firing government workers, slashing budgets to the bone.
We send $1.1 billion in funding to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, $8.3 billion in funding for the State Department.
He held up billions in funding for Head Start, after-school programs, energy assistance for low-income households, research at the National Institutes of Health. One of Vogt's colleagues at his think tank came out and said Elon Musk was taking direction from Russ.
Holy shit. Now that's a bombshell if I ever heard one right there. Elon Musk was taking directions from Russ Vought. Holy shit. So then he's responsible for all the Doge stuff.
Chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw.
There was some friction, but then there were other examples where it seemed that Vought and Doge were working hand in glove. And when they did, they could be brutally efficient. The clearest example of this is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
We virtually shut down the out-of-control CFPB, escorting radical left bureaucrats out of the building and locking the doors behind them.
Insane. Because what they're talking about is probably one of the best, if not the single best government agency that we have that makes sure you don't get ripped off by big banks and big financial institutions. They've returned over $12 billion to Americans who were defrauded by credit card companies, big banks, etc., and they shut it down. So they're working on behalf of the corporations. They're working on behalf of the billionaires and the criminals against the American people.
Vought was put in charge of it by Trump. He directed Doge operatives to go in and get access to data at the same time that Vought himself was shutting down the headquarters and stopping all work. This status quo smashing approach that Elon took.
Some of the things that I say will be incorrect. Nobody's going to bat 1,000.
Created more momentum for the bigger scale things that Vought wants to accomplish.
5:03 this morning, day 2 of the federal government shutdown, and right now Congress remains deadlocked.
We should not bend it all on a CR, because then we've given the heroin addict a taste of heroin again. Have we not, Russ?
I don't think anyone should be afraid of a government shutdown.
You know Russell Vought, he's a serious person, very serious person, and he's sitting there and he's getting ready to cut things.
Russ Vought, the OMB director, has been dreaming about this moment, preparing this moment since puberty. Russ Vought, who has posted on X just a short time ago, the RIFs have begun. RIF, R-I-F, stands for reduction in force.
No matter the attacks, the slander, the legal bills, the ended relationships.
In Russ Vought, the cultural battles and the fiscal battles have been brought together.
So plan and act accordingly, give freely, pray continuously, but come what may, fight.
And you're seeing that play out day by day right now in the second Trump administration. It's hard to think of a White House that has so pushed the bounds on what the president can do.
They've never seen anything like what's happened in the last 8 months.
It's setting up what I think is going to be a pretty dramatic clash, not only between the White House and Congress, but ultimately a fight that's going to play out in the courts, and one that will determine how powerful the president really is.
We will make our country greater, stronger, more united, and more faithful than ever before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very
much. So understand something, man. This guy was one of the key authors of Project 2025. And under Project 2025, what they want to do, and I don't want to overstate it, but like these guys are demons, man. These guys are absolutely satanic. They are demonic. They are evil. They want this. They want bad things for you. They want bad things for your family. They want bad things for the country. That's not up in the air. That's not a debate. That's a fact. So they're fighting for what's called unitary executive theory, which means what? No checks, no balances. The president, as long as it's a Republican, as long as it's Trump, he gets to do whatever the hell he wants, whenever the hell he wants to do it. They want Christian nationalism, as you heard him say in his own words. They want destruction of the regulatory state, destruction of the social safety net, which, by the way, mission accomplished. They're well on their way to doing that. By the way, 48% of Project 2025 has been implemented. 48%, last I checked. That was from like a month ago. Might even be more now. Might even be more. They're fighting to ban the states from doing free school breakfast and free school lunch for kids. They want to ban minimum wage increases. They want to ban extreme heat work breaks in states like Texas and Florida. They want to make it so that you're not guaranteed a break. They want to make it so that they ban porn and cut overtime pay and roll back child labor laws and destroy the EPA and all these different government agencies, which are like the best part of the U.S. government. So understand who they are, understand what they're doing, and at this point, it looks like Trump has multiple shadow presidents. We all know Stephen Miller is basically controlling stuff when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to immigration. So he's in charge when it comes to setting up these concentration camps and telling ICE agents to go raid the local fucking Walmart parking lot. Like, that's what this guy's doing. Bombing the Venezuelan fishing boats and Colombian fishing boats and Trinidadian fishing boats. It's Stephen Miller, it's Russ Vought, and it's Donald Trump. And together, they are the fucking unholy trinity if I've ever seen it. Because the amount of damage that they've done, and it hasn't even been a year, and the amount of damage that they've done is going to take us at least 8 years to just roll back the clock to before their destruction. Never mind actually improve the country. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.